for sure different experiences when it comes to the metaverse and different understandings. Oh, by the way, I'll ask Francisco to put on the screen some questions because some people will join and they will know what we're talking about. But basically, the very first question is very simple. What the hell is the metaverse, Vita? I mean, why does it really exist? Why does it really matter to us? So what is it?
Well, it's difficult to define. Okay, so the term metaverse was actually coined many years ago in a book by Neil Stevens called Snow Crash, and he was talking about this the parallel reality, digital virtual reality that people are living in this kind of a completely digital world. And at that time, it maybe seemed too far away, but today I think that we are getting closer and closer to this reality. But when we say usually metaverse in our space, I mean in the arena of digital projects, digital technologies, we kind of think of virtual reality, and we think that virtual reality or headsets that you put on your head to kind of enter the virtual reality are the things that make metaverse. But if you think about it from a different perspective, when you think about that, engagement in the digital space is what we could call metaverse. That means that we are already living in our digital lives. I mean, even this session is a virtual session. So we are not here, but we are all together. And in that sense, I could say that the metaverse is actually a shared experience. And what we, when we were drawing on our board on like what VRO art is as a metaverse of galleries and museums, and talking about the user experience that we are having, this is exactly it. This is a place of meeting inside of these new realities that we can find usually in what people refer to virtual reality, but actually, a mobile app or a chat app is also a form of a metaverse, because what you're doing is you're spending your time focused in a digital communication, whether it's a live chat or is type chat or whatever it is, you are there and you are engaged with other people in this communication sense. So, but maybe this is just a point of view. If we are talking about the traditional, even a traditional sense of what metaverse is, I could define it as a virtual reality place where things are happening in this kind of new forms of virtual/digital environments. So you put your headset on, you dive into a completely new world of this kind of virtual space, and then you engage there with other people, with other items, with the world itself. People say that we will start earning money in the metaverse, that we will be doing our jobs in the metaverse. Some of it is true, some of it is not true. So we will see how things progress.
That's cool. That's cool. That's cool. I get it. I mean, I hear people saying that the metaverse is actually some new form of social media. I hear some other people saying that the metaverse is some sort of a new marketplace. I mean, is it any of these, or is it something else? How does it really work? How does it really work? Can I go there and I just create a profile? I mean, this profile has to be. Tell me more about it.
Yeah. So what we have built with VRO Art is a metaverse for galleries, museums, and artists to create virtual reality exhibitions. And when we started creating this platform, that was even some 4 or 5 years ago. And during this time, it made a lot of sense for this specific use case. Okay, so the use case is that if you want to go to a virtual exhibition or you want to go to a museum exhibition, you cannot do real life exhibition beyond your geographic location. Okay, so you cannot go to London to visit a show if you're sitting in Portugal or in Belgrade, right? And it would be a great opportunity for galleries and museums to open up shows where everybody can come in, no matter where they're sitting in the world, right? And what we have experienced during the coronavirus outbreaks is that when everything was closed, all the galleries and museums wanted to do virtual exhibitions because that was their way to kind of break these boundaries and go beyond their real life spaces that were closed at the moment. So what happened is that they were asking for virtual reality exhibitions and virtual exhibitions. Why they were not asking for fully virtual reality exhibitions? Because people don't have headsets yet. Not enough people have their own headsets. So that was a big problem for museums and galleries, is that technology is not yet there for them to utilize the power of the technology fully. But what we can say that when you look at that specific use case is that, hey, I can travel the world, I can visit shows, I can meet people that are now in virtual reality, visitors of virtual reality, compared to having to literally get out of the office or home, walk to a gallery and visit an exhibition. This makes a lot of sense, and that also kind of invites you to think about other use cases where you can go, what you can do in the metaverse. Because
okay. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I'm saying, like, buying an art piece in a virtual exhibition in a gallery that is far away makes a lot of sense compared to buying it online on a computer screen where you're scrolling down and looking at all these, paintings or works of art that are displayed on a website. So when you put the VR headset on and when you stand in front of the piece and when you are talking to your buddy who is an avatar about a piece, this is an experience. This is something that changes you, that you feel the piece, you feel this conversation going around the piece, you are there, you can zoom in, you can go into the details, you are present. So the sense of presence is what makes the metaverse different than engaging in a Zoom call or a chat or something like that. Because if you feel the avatar, if you feel the person that is standing right behind you as a virtual avatar, and you engage in a conversation and then talk about what you are looking at that moment, that makes a lot of difference. And that's why we see the metaverse could really shape up to be something new, that this civilization hasn't yet experienced.
That's very cool. We will talk more about it and the relationship between the metaverse and blockchain, because and NFTs in particular, because I think that's very relevant. But let me try to understand. So who is it? Who is in the metaverse? Who is going to the metaverse or any metaverse today? What crowd is this one? How can you describe this crowd?
I can describe this crowd as early adopters, or even before early, like adopters that come before early adopters. So these are folks that are experimenting with the technology, that are trying out new things, and I think it's good to try and good to test out new use cases. So we had very interesting thing is that we had virtual meetings as avatars in the metaverse, and it is a different dynamics than even a Zoom call. Like, first of all, you forget about the time. This is interesting. There is no distractions that are around you when you have these either online meetings or even real life meetings. You're looking at the phone sometimes, you're distracted or something. But when you put the headset on and you enter the metaverse, you are there only with your peers, with people that you are meeting with, and then you're focused on what the discussion is about. So we had these meetings, and I can say that this is still early, meaning, like, hey, if I would say to you, like, on the call today is like maybe 30 people, hey, let's have this conversation in the metaverse. Download this app and load it on your VR headset. People would say, but I don't have a headset. So first, the thing is that, hey, let's get you a headset, or let's purchase a headset, and then we can start playing around in the apps that currently exist that allow you these features, so that we can meet, we can collaborate, we can draw on these virtual boards, we can have slideshows or presentations in the metaverse. These apps already exist. It's a matter of us engaging with them, trying them out, and testing them, and learning from these experiences. What is an interesting story is that we are now working with a law office in Switzerland that wants to build their office space in the metaverse, so they can have a virtual meeting space in their own kind of office, a virtual office. And what I want to do in the future is talk about and work in the area of digital real estate and virtual land, because they want to explore how the virtual land is taxed. Okay, where do you pay tax on the virtual land? Do you own it? You know, where's the jurisdiction that collects the tax from you owning a virtual land? So it's kind of bizarre, you know, in a way, but it makes a lot of sense for you know, law offices to kind of think about these scenarios before they actually really happen, because they want to give their clients a proper way to handle their taxes if, you know, like they own virtual land. So it's crazy, but it's happening, and we are building them an office, and then we will have regular meetings with them there. We are also working with some VC funds to create also offices for them, and so that fund people that are funding metaverse projects can actually meet in the metaverse with their projects and talk about the metaverse. So
I think, yeah,
you see how it's moving. I think that this will also happen with brands. This will also happen with marketing agencies. You need to try it out. You need to be there on the front lines in order to understand how it feels. First of all, the emotions, and then, you know, how on the business side, how things will move forward.
that's outstanding. I think the way everything is moving, and I think it's also providing a new ground for creativity and for the creation of new business models and new products and services that are yet to be created. So that's fantastic. Okay, so next question. I mean, are we living the meta moment in the sense that, I mean, is it really offering already something that people want or not? I assume I know the answer, but what do you think? Are we really living the meta moment already, or is it still yet to come? Is it offering already something that people want?
That's a difficult one. I mean, I could rephrase the question is like, are we an Instagram powered civilization? Are we a TikTok powered civilization? Is that the measurement of our new values that we kind of adopted in the last couple of years? Is this something that is this the meta layer? Is this the, you know, this new society that evolves around images more than you know, the core values, let's say? And there was a book called I don't know the English translation directly. It's called Society of Spectacle. And let me Google it.
You can say it in Serbian, but maybe some people will understand.
Yeah, it's Društvo spektakla, but it's from Debord. Let me see what is the, because it's a very interesting book. It was written years ago, and then everybody should read it actually, because it describes the society that we live in now. It's Guy Debord, La Société du Spectacle, the spectacle in French. Let me see.
The spectacle in terms of show, yes, or in terms of
it well. Yes,
spectacles, also the glasses or the lenses that you are wearing on.
Guy Debord. And it was written in 1973, and he was talking about you know, a society that is living around images, and that, you know, what is false becomes the truth, and truth becomes the false. Like we are almost like experiencing this moment now, where, you know, like the image becomes more important than the essence. So the question is, are we living in that moment? I think yes, we do. Are we living in a moment of society where fake news is more important, like the media, you know, a message is more important than the truth? Yes, definitely we are. You know, like what the influencer, let's say, society is what we have right now. Like, who is the influencer? Who you're gonna follow? Who you're gonna trust? Who you're gonna turn to? You know, like, are we all gonna take sides based on how rich the media image is, or how well, you know, the PR statement is behind a specific situation, whether it's war in Ukraine or whether it's Will Smith hitting this guy in the Oscars. So who is right, who is wrong? It doesn't matter, because this influencer society created at that moment an image what is right, and then everybody follows that image. So if you ask me, are we living in the meta moment? We are not living in the meta moment, virtual reality meta moment yet. It probably will be there, and we are approaching this moment. We are currently living in another moment. It's a digital moment, definitely.
Okay.
So meta moment, maybe not yet, but if you think about it, like spending time and engaging in the digital space, then we are living in a meta moment. So if that makes sense.
Cool. I think that's a very fair answer, I think. But but in the end of the day, then, I mean, why should businesses and brands make a move there?
You mean make a move in the metaverse?
Yeah, why should they, I mean, really why should they raise interest to this? And you have seen some examples of brands that are, some of them are probably, building some initiatives that will build buzz and will build reputation, and will build an understanding that they are bold and brave to, make a step to these new technologies, and they are in the now. And some others are probably looking at it as new opportunities, new channels, new ways to interact with their audiences, new ways to create experiences, and actually you can create new value chains. We will talk a little bit about some specifics of certain industries, but my challenge to this conversation will be more like, I mean, if the meta moment is yet to come, I mean, and after everything that we already discussed, I mean, if I am a business owner, if I have a very well-known and reputable brand, why should I go there?
That's a topic to discuss. It surely depends on what is the brand, what is the brand equity, like what does the brand stands for, like is it ready to experiment? Experimentation, being bold in this space, it is always appreciated. And the brands that move first into a specific arena, first of all, learn first. They even learn from their mistakes. If they know how to communicate their well-doings or mistakes to the rest of the company's employees. Because what is here interesting is that sometimes brand managers rotate so fast, and this, Andre, that they cannot give proper feedback on the projects or campaigns that were done in the previous iteration to the new colleagues, or they forget that they tried something. So I think that propagating these experiments throughout the whole company and brand is really important, because then the conversations can be held around what is next. Because as we all know, I mean, I'll just give you an example of Twitter versus Discord. Okay, so what happened last year in around mid-October? I don't know if you guys noticed this, and I mean, this is not a really widely known fact, but Twitter changed its algorithm around mid-October. We detected between 12th and 14th of October. Something drastically changed. So we had on Solsi, we had around, at that time, I think we had around 40,000 followers. That was all organic. And we never paid for any ads. That was all like people coming in, wanting to engage into the NFT space, and so on. So we put out a tweet in beginning of October, in the first week of October. We would get 100, 200, 300 likes instantly, whatever we put. We put GM, which is in the NFT space for acronym for good morning, and you get 200, 300 likes. And what happened is that Twitter's changed something, and now all the projects, I think even all the accounts got like 10 times less engagement than a week before that. Suddenly, literally, we could see that in our analytics graphs. It was like going like this, and then just drop around 12th and 14th of October. But the problem was not our Twitter. The problem is that all other projects that use Twitter as a platform to communicate their new NFT drops or NFT collections had the same problem. And no one was behaving like there was a problem with the Twitter. They were all just not reaching enough audience. They could not get their message across wider space of people, but instead, they were limited to a very, very low impression count on their tweets. Wow. So what kind of organically happened is that the conversation started to move from the Twitter to Discord, because there was no limitations on the Discord servers on, who can post whatever. I mean, these are chats, like private servers for chats. So what you saw is a transformation of the whole NFT shift of the whole NFT space, which is tremendously important. And that was also for us. We were slow to adapt. Like it took us a couple of months to understand what is going on. But what happened, the core thing that happened, is the conversation moved from public space into a private space.
I think that's very interesting what you're sharing, because what you're sharing basically is that you have certain communities that they use platforms. If the platform changes the rule, the community doesn't cease to exist. They just move the conversation elsewhere. But I think that's very interesting. And you are mentioning a community around NFTs, which I also think that is one of the reasons perhaps why brands should make the move. Because, you are in the advent of Web3, where, blockchain technologies will be more present in everything we do across the web. And I think that the discussion around digital assets will be bigger. As you know, I used to be, managing international brands, and you know very well how people appreciate not just the mass market, but they appreciate exclusivity of products and goods. And sometimes if you add a number to a certain good, people already want it. If you have something that is exclusive, the value of that good will increase.
Exactly.
And what we can see here is the possibility to create digital assets through NFTs. And actually you can display it. You have a ground, you have a platform to display this ownership. And this platform is actually the metaverse. It can be the metaverse. And perhaps this is something that brands could explore, not just in terms of communication, but also in terms of value that they're giving, in terms of exclusivity and of exclusive items and products that they are providing to their audiences. So that's probably something.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
What I'm doing when I'm talking to brands and when we are talking to agencies about what is the next step is, like, first of all, I try to ask them, like, okay, do you own any NFTs? Have you actually tried to engage into the space? Do you spend time in Discord chats? Do you go on Twitter and tweet? But not tweet like you post a tweet, but you go and engage in a conversation with someone else's tweet. And what do you say? Are you funny? Are you, direct? Are you more conservative? Or are you trying to push out your message? Or you're genuinely engaging in the conversation that is happening on the tweet? Are you following up what's going on in the space? Like over the last weekend, we had some crash of Solana blockchain for some 7 hours. There was on Twitter, people were going crazy. There was a lot of conversations going on. So if you want to engage, are you informed on the topic? Do you know what's going on? And then the question for brands is also, like, who is doing this for you? Brands are people that go to work from 9 to 5. Crypto space, it lives 24/7. Who is gonna serve your communities? How are you gonna build communities? How are you gonna what is a popular term in the NFT space? How are you gonna ape them into the space? Are they gonna ape for your next digital product? Are they gonna ape for your next drop, NFT drop? And how are you going to think about how to connect real world and your brand and your virtual world and your virtual brand in any way? Like, is it going to be a replica of the real world, or are you going to create a unique content that lives only in the metaverse and in a digital world? And this
I think it's very interesting that when we are still looking at companies that are willing to increase their digital maturity and operate at omni-channel level. I mean, we'll probably be witnessing something like the meta channel level very soon,
Yeah,
which is
definitely.
the next level beyond omni-channel. Francisco, any question from retail? You are interested in retail, right, Francisco?
Yeah. So the retail space is also kind of an interesting opportunity, especially in the metaverse field, because the retail space connects with real life objects, and it can be your sneaker could be represented as a virtual reality sneaker. That or if you buy real life sneakers, you could get a digital copy or a virtual copy of that sneaker, and that makes a lot of sense for consumer brands that are selling, I don't know, t-shirts, hoodies, sportswear, or even luxury goods in real life, that they kind of either give you a same exact object in the metaverse, or they can even put out a brand new exclusive collections only for the metaverse, where their focus is a different audience that is a metaverse audience. But they are now building a brand not based on what these audiences look for in real life, but actually talking and communicating with a brand new audience. And if you want to communicate and sell something to a new audience, you need to learn about them. You need to get into their interest fields, because these NFT crowd usually lives in their own echo chambers, in their own bubbles. So they're interested, they're spending too much time over in front of the computer screens. So they need a different approach. They need a different language than maybe a brand is used to use in a real life arena. So experimentation, this is what I'm saying, like, when should brands make this move? They should make the move yesterday. Because if they're not there, someone else will be there instead of them, doing the work that they should be doing, and learning from it, learning from mistakes, learning from good things, and then building on these experiences more and more. So in a blink of an eye, other brands will have their brand equity and brand position in the metaverse, and your brand will not be there. And you will not know what happened, because, when the conversation is private, what is a problem? You need to be a part of this community, this private community. If they don't let you in, you do not exist.
So, I mean, and companies will need to have, people that are willing to experiment and to do this, because it's really not easy. So, and for them to create and to build their own reality and experience, they may need to onboard a complex or a new team that will have new skills, but they don't want that. They want people that will be skilled for the regular day, everyday business, right? So I mean, how can this onboarding to the metaverse be easier for brands? Do you think that agencies will have a role there? I mean, well, how do you think this will be working?
Agencies need to take proactive role and to be there for their brands, because brands will not. I mean, maybe the CEO will tell the employees, hey, we need to be in the metaverse, but that will not be easy to do.
To execute.
That are creatives, that are in front lines of bringing the brands to the public, need to take the role on themselves. And I think we had this conversation where I said, like, ask brands to give you money to experiment, and then come back with the results of these experiments. Buy some NFTs, get into the metaverses, buy headsets, get people inside, learn the platforms, get some results in front of them, and then tell them, like, okay, maybe we could try this and this. Currently, these 2 platforms exist, or these 5 platforms, and then we can do maybe a 3D model here, an NFT drop here. Let's try out things, because otherwise, if they want to only follow, the paved road, they will never know, how to navigate the jungle that is out there, and there are no paved roads yet. So whoever goes first will reach the goal, the end goal, and then others will probably follow. So the question for brands is, are you going to follow, or are you going to be the the brave explorer that will leap into this? And I think the agencies should be the, how to call them, these guides that are taking the brands for the hands and then guiding them through this forest of unknown. I remember the days when I started working with my first digital agency. That was in 2010, I think, 12 years ago, when 2009, 2010. And I was showing graphs of how Facebook is penetrating in Serbia, the Serbian market. And brands were like, yeah, this digital thing, we are not into this, like it was too early for them. And I was saying, like, yes, but 1.5 million people already have their Facebook accounts in Serbia. That's like a fifth of the whole population. So do you think that being there where the fifth of the whole population is the right time, to start engaging? And they said, no. A year after, there was not a single brand that it didn't ask us for a Facebook campaign. Not a single one that was, jumping over Facebook. And I think it's also now the time for the metaverse is before actually we have 1 million people in each country that is part of the metaverse. Now we have maybe 10,000, or 100,000. So it's a question of like, are you going to start now, or are you going to ring on the doors before, not before, but after all others are already there? So
I think that one of the fears that our brands still need is the notion that building something on the metaverse is still very complex and requires a lot of knowledge about developers, etc. And when they analyze, like if we analyze the evolution of Web 2, when we see a transformation at the resource level that has been evolving so that anyone can create a website, for example, with drag and drop resources, do you think that on Web 3, on metaverse, are we going to have resources to do that, or we are going to have, like always, meta experts or developer experts to do something like this, to build something on the metaverse?
If we're talking about metaverse, which is virtual reality enabled meta layer, then it's not easy, I must say. Yes, it's more complex than creating a banner in Photoshop and putting it on a website, yes, or a microsite for your brand new activation that you have, a game, like, hey, let's make a Facebook game. In the old times, it was like, we can make I have a great idea, a wow idea, let's make a Facebook game. that was fun. But to be honest, I don't know. Like it's a question of if we're talking about NFTs, for example, this is something that could be done pretty cheaply, and it's not that much of a hassle. And if we're talking about virtual realities, then it's more complex. It's different, but it's also consumed differently. Like if it also depends on the brand. If we're talking to a brand that is fast-moving consumer goods brand, then it's the audience is different. If you're talking about a brand that is B2B brand, like a law office, and they have clients, in 10 different countries around the world, it makes a lot of sense for them to make virtual office.
Yeah.
No. So that type of brand might be more, and they are a brand. They are communicating, their brand. So for that type of people, it might make a lot of sense. And for example, you have an investment company that is moving huge amounts of money for a very limited number of clients. It makes a lot of sense for them to literally, what we did is like we bought headsets and we send them as a present to our investors. Why? Because we want to show them, first of all, what we are doing, but second of all, we want them inside because they might buy a painting that is in a virtual reality exhibition. And that also stands for galleries. Why not, a gallery that sells a painting for $100,000 US, for example, a high-profile art gallery, for them to invest in let's say 100 headsets and to send those headsets to their high-profile collectors, and then to make exclusive exhibitions only for them, for these people, one-on-one exhibitions. It's a huge, let's say, an upgrade of their business model, of the way that they're communicating with their audience. So it is a question of, like, who is the brand talking to, how it is talking to these audiences. Maybe what we did years ago is we built training courses in virtual reality for, a pharmaceutical company. So what we did is, like, there was a brand story that was done in a virtual reality activation. So that then we took these VR headsets across the world and we did trainings with employees of the company. So thinking about also in-house engagement of the companies in virtual reality is also a very interesting, move. Look, there's now a remote work ethics, right? So a lot of companies are doing, remote work with their employees. So why not have virtual reality meetings for the employees, right? It's very cheap. It's cheaper. It's nicer. Maybe it's more fun. You could have, virtual reality games in these metaverses. You could play around. It's almost like half fun, half work. So these are all open questions, and unless brands are willing to experiment with these things, maybe first start from in-house experimentation and then move it out to the outside world. I mean, we will see, but it's coming. It's here. We can do that tomorrow, today.
Thanks everyone for your participation. Thank you, Vitomir, for joining. It was a great pleasure.